act on the development of the public safety complex, including but not limited to proposed designs, assessment plan, and location. I have been asked by several people in the past couple of weeks in terms of location about whether or not we had explored every possibility that might be available to us in terms of where to locate this building. I don't think that we did actually look and explore some of these possibilities. And I think it's something that we probably should at least take a look at and maybe discuss.
It shouldn't take long. The postage stamp. It's property.
Right, but they were talking in terms of other locations on the island.
So are there sites in particular? Only because I do believe that prior to us convening, the fire department engaged, and Marianne as well, in some conversations about places like the airport.
Okay.
And my understanding is that those were off the list for various reasons, but are there sites in particular?
One of them was the airport. That was the major one.
Mhm.
And a couple of people had asked me if that had been explored, and I didn't have an exact answer for them because I did not know that anybody had actually spoken to them prior.
Yeah.
We did talk about it briefly in one of our meetings. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think Chief Hobie had the airport was a no for some reason, I don't recall, and I might be wrong. I know we talked about the highway garage area. Needs to be redone also, and there was a potential flooding issue down there.
Right.
Transfer station is off. Too far away and too small. Was there other spots that were?
Well, someone else had mentioned the Mott property, which I know would need to be bought, which adds significant cost to it. So that to me was kind of a no, but
My other concern with that parcel is that it's so much filled land
Mhm.
that it may not provide the stability that we're looking for.
right.
Yeah, there's a
Hmm.
flooding, really flooding.
Flooding and the potential for digging up something that we don't need to be digging up.
That's
Which
also
happened
in,
also over there at the Narragansett, so I
I can almost
would like to avoid that.
I can almost guarantee they'd find stuff.
Mhm.
Back to the airport, which of the ones we've talked about so far is maybe the only one that has viability. I do intend, although I have not yet, to reach out to them about temporary siting there.
Mhm.
Meaning, is there a place, we have this equipment coming, is there a place that we could potentially put up another temporary facility so that that new equipment is covered while we're building?
Mhm.
So, that does provide a little bit of an entree into, again, whether they're open to it.
Mhm.
I wouldn't stop the momentum that we have, but if there's anything, I can poke that a little bit more.
And I wasn't part of any of those discussions,
Right.
so I didn't really know.
Yes.
And it also piqued my curiosity because Westerly PD is on the state airport property over there. So I guess if they did it with Westerly, I wasn't sure why they would be against maybe working with us to do something up there.
How was that as far as location? I mean,
Good
does it
location.
hurt or help the fire department or?
I think-
Police department?
Well, I mean, I think in terms of the police department's going to stay where it's at, and you're half a mile from the current location. No.
Did they ever get town water in terms of a hydrant at the airport? Do you remember?
They're on
That that was, and that was part of what I was saying, it has that really been looked at, and are a couple of those things absolute no's?
So if they didn't ever get a hydrant there,
Mhm.
What,
it
at the
was
airport?
at the airport.
Yeah.
It was not for lack of desire or engineering.
Mhm.
It just became unviable and overly expensive, like prohibitively expensive because of how you had to get there.
Mhm.
I would assume public water is an important element for a fire station, but Scott, I'm gonna let Scott weigh in on that.
Good afternoon, everyone. Scott Patel. To answer your question, Madam Manager, it's important because under the current fire codes, if you fire in the sprinkler building. So that would drive that. The alternative to that is to have underground water storage and just the fire protection piece of it, which adds cost. So if I may, Chief Hobie had brought this to my attention this morning, and that was this morning, and he brought this to my attention that some people had expressed concern about what's been explored and what had. I'm new to Block Island. You folks all know the ins and outs and the politics of Block Island far better than I'll ever. I can tell you from past experience and other projects. You the committee, me as a consultant, we want to anticipate what's going to come at us from the community when the time comes. And if we start putting time and effort into this project, with the course that we've been going at the current police fire station property, which I think is a good idea, but if we continue down that path, and this goes to public hearings, and the public comes out and starts throwing stones at the committee, you never explored this, well, how come you didn't do that? Why didn't you do this? You could have done it cheaper. We could look foolish. And I don't think any of us desire to look foolish. I think we want to do our due diligence, ensure that we've done our homework, and be able to anticipate those questions and be able to answer them. Chief Hobie did say to me this morning that Mary and Crawford had explored the airport property at one point. He didn't say whether it was an affirmative or a negative. You just said that you thought it was a negative. He didn't say one way or another. He did agree with me and or Chief Dean that if there are questions out there, we should probably ensure we cover our bases and at least done our homework. They said, we spoke to Ryak, it's not on the table. You did some homework with Mary Ann Crawford or her records, it's not on the table, and then we can move forward. It is my position to you that the next step in this entire process is to go out with the RFQ, to bring on an architecture firm to draw that design, that preliminary design, that we can start getting some dollar budgetary numbers for further discussion and discussion of how you're going to raise the funds or whatever the case may be. But with that said, I don't want to see you spend one dime or even go forward with that RFQ if the current location is not where we're going. If there's a possibility of going in another direction, then I think we should slow down on the RFQ as much as I'd like to see us keep moving forward. I think we should slow down. I don't want to waste money. I don't want to spend your money. I don't want to waste money. Doug had proposed a design that the chief, I think, has, right? You got it, Chris?
Yes.
That the chief Hobie and I need to sit down and review. It may very well give us an alternative. And the three of us need to do that. So I'd like to see you move forward, but I don't want to see you move forward and spend good money after that and have people criticize this committee. That you should have looked at this, you should have explored that. So that's my position today.
As far as the airport site, I think that I'm pretty sure the National has sprinklers and they're on a well. So I don't think public water is a factor in having a sprinkler system. I think with a well, you can do it.
To the national,
Mhm.
national one town water.
Yeah, they have a private well.
We have town water set,
Okay, which spring?
No, well, standby.
just set. They're on a well in general. They have set.
So there's gotta be a underground water storage tank for that.
Yeah.
Because theoretically, a well, unless it's a public well or municipal services, a well produces whatever it can produce, 4 gallons a minute, 6 gallons, 10 gallons, whatever the case may be. A sprinkler system, one head can use up to 15 gallons a minute, two heads, you'll exhaust your water coming out of the ground from the pump. And if the fire involved the electrical system, it shuts down the pump. So like that's where a tank, I'm familiar with this from the rural standpoint,
Yeah.
Exeter, whenever there's been a place that had to have sprinklers, they had to put a tank in the ground. The well feeds the tank pumps it.
Well, tank isn't a problem, but it doesn't, my point is that it doesn't rule out that site.
Doesn't work, it adds cost.
Yeah. And I don't know if the costs are greater than trying to fudge what we're doing at the current site.
So
I'll give you a number, just because it brought to my attention last week in Exeter on a project. We used to use $1 a gallon. When you bought a tank, 30,000 gallon tank, it cost $30,000 to buy the tank. There's a project going in Exeter right now, and the gentleman, it's $100,000 for a 30,000 gallon tank delivered, so about $3 a gallon.
Well, you know, again, you have to weigh moving the existing building over and, you know,
Yep.
Well, it is.
So I guess I'm happy to continue to have those conversations with Ryak
Mhm.
anyway, but I would not suggest we stop our momentum.
Mhm.
I think it's more of a make sure we haven't missed anything than a diversion.
Perfect.
That's just me.
as an architect, I must say that if you're going to go with an RFP, you really should have a site, because otherwise they're drawing in the wind.
I think we should proceed with the site we have.
To our point, I agree 100% with her. The RFQ, whatever, though, we retain an architecture for whatever, we have to have something in mind. If it's the police fire station property, we have a concept right now. It could be multiple, it could be amended a little bit.
Right.
But if we were to go to the Ryak property or somewhere else, the concept would be totally different, and I don't want to see you waste money and time.
Was there other locations that were brought up in
That
conversation?
was,
or just the-
that was the most, yeah, that was.
I'm going to add something else.
Mhm.
What if the police station were moved to the Harborside site? And this is just thinking, and then have that whole big site for the fire station. Rescue.
But I guess that's the answer for the chief or town fathers. I don't know. That's not my expertise.
Did you say the Harborside site?
It's
Okay.
right in the middle of town. It's convenient. You can be
Well,
everywhere.
Well, the only problem, if you put everything down there, we have parking issues now. If we have a fire and you have.
No, not the fire station, just the police station.
We need to fix the fire department's the biggest piece of this.
Right.
So why would we move the police station down there?
Huh?
Why would we move the police station?
So
down
that you
there?
had the whole site for the fire department and rescue.
But there's a hotel going.
Mhm.
I think that's the.
And it's probably about $50 million more than we want to spend. on
Can't
this
imagine
project.
that the price tag for that is.
The water source is now, this town or not there.
So I guess in terms of the designs, Doug has also given us some drawings, and I think that Chief Hobie, myself and Scott need to sit down, look at the drawings that Doug has given us, look at the drawings that we have, and really hammer out an exact, like for next meeting, to come in here with a piece of paper and say, this is what we want. That.
If I may, the only comment I have to that, hearing everything. The manager's point of let's continue moving forward is based on using the current location.
Mhm.
Your point on Doug's, drawings is using the current location.
Mhm.
If we're in agreement that at the end of the day, we're gonna use the current location unless, Amy was to find something from Maya. I don't think it stops you from starting the RFP process, advertising, de-scoping, and being able to present to this committee, present to the council to award something between now and probably September at this point. And we hope that that's been awarded by then. So I don't think we have to drag out that piece as a result.
I guess I would agree with that, and Scott has provided some RFP framework, so while
Mhm.
the four of you are, or however many are refining that design, I'll be working on the back end of that document, and then we can bring your pieces and my
Mhm.
pieces back to the committee and look at them together.
Okay.
So, does that make sense for next steps?
It does. Can we have those things on our agenda for next month, Keisha, please? That's Doug.
Sorry, Mr. Beginning, I'm not sure what the agenda is going with this. Is there anything else on the agenda, or I can jump in on this one? We're on number 3. Okay. If you're thinking of something like the airport, then you need something basically twice as big as what I drew. Because the airport probably can be one full.
Mhm.
So you need that big of property, plus all the access, et cetera, et cetera. I think a couple of things need to be done before you go, I think you need to know if,
Can you just see the mic for the people that are listening? Sorry.
you need to decide if and where the rescue building can be moved, because I think it has to be moved first. And it can't be moved to the police location because as the chief said, all that stuff gets knocked down, including the dispatch, so that's gonna be the last thing put in place. Is attach that to the police building again. The other thing you've gotta do is talk with town council about location. Because you're going down into Negus Park and you're going down that steep slope. If you don't move the rescue building, the top of that slope is about 80 feet into your building, and you're going
Mhm.
40, 60 feet down the hill. That's a construction thing, but it's also, does the town want that or not? So you gotta proceed with that. And, I think discussions have to go for the town council. And something to do like what it might cost. Instead of drawing plans up saying, oh, this is what we think it's gonna cost, you like, why did it go from? So, things like that has to be discussed. I think at some point the council has to be involved, say, hey, this is what we're planning. Do we have your blessing to move forward? And make sure, you know, of course, that the police and fire and rescue are happy with the layout of the building. How they can layout.
Well, I think at this point right now, we need to get what we're gonna have for a layout first. Like,
And so my thought in terms of bringing the council into this is to build all those pieces,
Mhm.
which is essentially preparation for issuance of the RFP, because that gets us far enough in our thinking that we have forced ourselves to put it on paper, to be articulate, to be clear about what we're looking for. And before the actual issuance, bring it to the council so that they can have a sense of where we're headed and throw up any concerns that they may have before we've actually hit the street. But I think that legwork of getting us to a document that is ready, we have to go through to show them anyway. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's my thought, is to bring it to them just before we hit the street. That my thought is to bring it to them just before we issue an RFQ or an RFP.
Right, so to discuss and act on the RFP, I think we're gonna put that off until next meeting. And we will come back with Scott, Chief Hobie and myself will sit down with designs that we have and come up with a design to put in front of all of you to take a look at and move on from there.
Chief, it's not on the agenda explicitly, but, and I think everybody knows, but the council did authorize engaging Scott for his work.
Mhm.
So we're clear on that part.
Mhm. Good. Okay. We about covered everything. Have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is adjourned. Oh, gee,
That was quick.
that was quick. Should have asked for public input. Just kidding.
Are we talking, I'm hearing